the general question is, why did you decide to run?
Well, I'm running because the 6th District has been blue for 55 years, yet we have the 11th most conservative Democrat in the House representing us, and that has a real impact on the quality of life for people in the district. Now, he's been in office for quite some time now, yet we have homelessness on the rise. We have 24% of the district on Social Security, yet he signed a letter calling for Social Security cuts, supporting Mitt Romney's plan to do that. We have people who are, they can barely afford the rent if they even can. People who can't get a good job. There's a big part of my district that used to have a thriving timber industry. It collapsed. No jobs have replaced a lot of that. So we also have the top 2 counties in the state for opioid-related deaths. So we have a lot of issues here that are not being addressed by our current representation. And additionally, with the Green New Deal, he just refuses to support it. He refuses to stop taking fossil fuel money. And we just don't have much time. We only have until 2030 to make big, bold change to the economy and getting it to renewable energy. So that's why I decided to run.
Wow. The sad thing is I hear these stories over and over, and they always shock me, but they're all very similar. When you hear about who's representing us in the House, who's coming out of these traditionally very Democratic districts, and it's really mind-boggling. Because Washington State is probably like more, I would say, populist in terms of at least electoralism. So it's horrifying that you'd have a legislator, a lawmaker who would be taking such conservative positions. Now your background, tell us about where you come from, what you're going to bring to the table when you're elected to Congress.
Yeah, well, I grew up moving around overseas because my dad was in the U.S. Foreign Service, and we moved back to the States when I was 12. And I grew up moving around a lot. That's what I was used to. But when I moved to Tacoma, I really fell in love with it. I felt like I finally found my home and where I wanted to be. And while I've been here, I've done stuff like I'm a commissioner on the Tacoma Commission on Disabilities, co-led my local Indivisible group for a year and a half. I was a court-appointed special advocate for kids in foster care in my county. And I've been really involved in lots of different ways. But after 2016, I wanted to move beyond what I had been doing politically, which was voting and paying attention, but, really get more involved in the process. And that's when I found out so much more about our district and how out of touch with the district's needs and also just Democrats in Washington, our representative is. I'm also a renter. I would be one of the few people who's not a millionaire and not a homeowner in Congress. And so I can really relate to the huge increases in rent. I mean, Tacoma, it may surprise people to learn, we're not as expensive a rental market as somewhere like New York or San Francisco, but out of everywhere in the country, we're one of the top for the rate at which rent is increasing. So it's really severe, the housing crisis here, and government is just not doing enough to solve it. And then in the rest of the district where there's more home ownership, there just isn't enough rental stock. And, Aberdeen, in my town, that's where Kurt Cobain, Aberdeen, which is a town in my district, it's where Kurt Cobain was from. Has a population of 16,000 and 1,000 homeless people.
Wow.
So you just imagine 1 in 16 people are homeless. That shows you the scale of the problem. And they just get their empty houses all around Aberdeen. And that district, that county, it also is one of the top 2 that I mentioned, the state for opioid-related deaths. And they don't have a single treatment facility that takes Medicaid. So people literally die because of that.
Not a treatment facility that takes Medicaid?
Mm-hmm.
In a state that's led by, are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah. And unfortunately, out of our delegation, Pramila Jayapal is amazing. Yeah. Some other representatives are good on certain issues, but we really don't have the progressive representation that really matches our politics. Bernie Sanders took this district in 2016, very close second in this cycle. We also have a long populist history in this district. There were about 10 IWW chapters in the state. There was local socialist organizing in Aberdeen, which I just mentioned. There were a lot of socialists organizing there. There was a socialist hall. You can even see a picture that a local historian tweeted of 500 socialists gathering together in 1911 in Aberdeen, the local socialist club. There's a long 100-year plus history of populist left-wing organizing in this district. And people ask me, well, what about the conservative voters in the rural parts of your district? Well, if you ask a lot of them, even the Republicans, their favorite politician is FDR. And that's because he was the last president to visit their communities, and because there were 7 civilian conservation corps camps on the Olympic Peninsula. So the federal jobs program, people want these populist policies.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Nomiki Show. Make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube and share with everybody on social media. And of course, if you're not a patron already, please join us on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for as low as $5 a month. That money makes a huge difference. We don't have the corporate money coming in. We're not cable news that's raking in the dough from advertisers right now as everybody's sitting at home and watching. It is really you guys who are keeping us together. So please consider being a patron. And for those of you who have already, we are incredibly grateful to you.